Are we ready? Okay. Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone. Um, my name is Scott Thompson, and I I love doing interviews, and I've done several interviews actually in this room called "How Did You Do It?" And I love asking people, how did they do it? How did they become successful? And uh, today we've got people here on Zoom. We've got people here uh, in the Sands Club, and this is just it's a great time, and it's also celebrating the John and Doris Norton School of Human Ecology. So that's really great. Our special guest that is really special is Josh Pastner. And Josh is on with us from Atlanta. So there's 3 hour difference. So it's about Josh's bedtime on it. And
close to it with all the little kids I have at the house. You're right on that.
how many do you have, Josh?
I got four little ones.
Okay. So you can imagine he's got his hands full, but Josh is an alumnus of the Norton School, and he majored in human development and family sciences and graduated in 1998, he told me, and had a master's after that, which we'll all dig into. But in full disclosure, I had originally come, and I'm not going to talk about me very much. This is about Josh, but I came way back as an assistant basketball coach for Lute Olsen, going back into the 1980s. And I was dating a young woman and we got married. And when we were dating, she was just graduating from the Norton School, or at that time, it was human ecology. So I hope you've all gotten a chance to meet Rebecca. And we got married very shortly thereafter. And so we're all kind of part of this family. So it's great to be here. Okay. So, I was coaching and I was talking about that, and I went over and became the head basketball coach at Rice University in Houston. And while I was over there, I'm running our camps, summer camps and things like that. And I have a young man in our gym from Kingwood High School in Houston, and his name's Josh Pastner. And Josh was there, and Josh and I got a chance to get to know each other, although Josh was just a youngster back then, and I felt I was an old guy, but we got to know each other. And the thing that happened was, next thing I knew, Lute was recruiting him to come to the U of A. And that's kind of what happened. So originally, Josh comes as a student athlete, which is kind of a special thing. And that's kind of the first question I want to ask Josh, is about being a student athlete, because you're talking about being a student and being an athlete at the same time. Can you talk about that?
Well, first of all, Coach, thank you for having me and your wife. So I appreciate you both for having me. I really wish you guys maybe be there in person. I would have loved to have been there in person. You know that, because to be able to see everybody there and yes, you're right. I've known Coach Thompson. I call him Coach Thompson. Some of you might know him as Scott or Mr. Thompson. I call him Coach Thompson. That's how I know Coach. And he was a great coach, was great assistant for Coach Olsen, helped him build the program at Arizona, did an incredible job at Rice. And in fact, I knew Coach when he had more hair, but because he was the head coach, he's lost a lot of hair. He still has a little bit left because he's no longer coaching, but a lot of it left because he was coaching. That's what coaching does to you. So I just wanted to tell Coach that, though. But I love Coach, and he's awesome, and I've always admired him and respected him so much, and he knows that. And then Yes, and coach understands this, and everybody there understands how big basketball is there at the University of Arizona. So when you're talking about being a student athlete at probably for sure the premier program in all of the West Coast in college basketball, but one of the very premier programs in all of college hoops. And in fact, the time that I was there, and I mean, I wasn't there the whole time, but there was a time there, and I was part of the years, and coaches knows this. There was a time where in over a 17-year span, Coach Lute Olsen and the Arizona Wildcat basketball program was the winningest program in a 17-year span of any other program there is. And that is to be said for something there in Tucson, where you didn't have a lot of recruiting in the backyard. In a sense, Coach Lute Olsen had to go out and recruit all kinds of guys and all from all over across the country. And to be part of Coach Olsen's program, it really mattered to him that you were not an athlete student. You were a student athlete. And I thought one of the great things about being in Coach's program, and he talked about this all the time, was that he was not going to budge. And Coach Thompson knows this. He was not going to budge no matter how good you were, that if you did not take care of your business academically. I mean, that really mattered to Coach. And I thought it set a great tone for not only a guy like myself, but everybody who played for Coach, the understanding of how important it is to get a degree eventually from a prestigious school like the University of Arizona. And so I was very fortunate that I was around Coach, but I was around great professors. As Coach mentioned in my degrees, I did graduate quickly. And I remember I wanted to be a basketball coach. I knew I wanted to coach. I knew how important that was to me. And I knew that the importance of coaching, if you're going to coach in college, you needed to be able to show that you had a care about academics. And so so part of the thing is being able to really not just talk about academics, but really live it and believe in it. And that's why I believe in the school, both as the college where I graduated from, but the overall, not only the academic college, but the overall University of Arizona college. And because getting that degree has helped propel me to open doors that are hard to open up. And so, yes, part of that was being a part of a student athlete, but the importance of the academics. And I'm forever grateful for being part of the college in order to do that.
Josh, talk about your early years. I mean, when you're playing basketball, but you're also taking classes and so forth. And why did you choose Norton School?
Yeah, well, what I would tell you is this. As I mentioned, I knew I wanted to coach. I remember when I was in fifth grade, and I remember watching the Boston Celtics play the Los Angeles Lakers on one of the national networks. And I remember telling my dad, I want to stay in the game of basketball. And I knew, and look, I had a dream of playing in the NBA. I thought I was going to be the next Steve Kerr. That's what I really believed. Until I showed up to Arizona and played in the first pickup game, I recognized that was my playing career was over. Within first 8 seconds, I got into a pickup game with the guys at Arizona. But I had a dream. I was going to be like Steve Kerr and this great shooter and all. And on a side note, when I went to the shooting camps on those Friday nights and Saturdays at Rice, Coach Thompson was such a great shooter. I mean, I always thought that I would be like a guy like him or like a Steve Kerr. Well, I get to Arizona, and obviously I quickly understood that wasn't going to happen. So I really wanted to coach. And in my mind, I knew, how am I going to separate myself? Because if I wasn't going to play in the NBA, I figured the next best thing to playing was coaching. And so I put all my energies towards that. And what I would tell you is when I knew what I wanted to do and I got to college, I said, man, I've got to separate myself if I want to be a Division I head men's basketball coach. And I'm going to tell you a story on this, and this is a true story how this happens. I mean, it's hard to become a head Division I basketball coach. So I go to school. there at Norton School, and I really wanted to study because it was important to me to understand about people, families, because part of my degree was in family studies with my undergrad there from the Norton School, and it was important to me because of the recruiting that I'd be dealing with would be involving families. I mean, you'd be involving young people where the guardians, their parents, their grandparents, their aunts, whomever it may be, is entrusting you with the baton to say, hey, I'm giving you my child, and I'm going to entrust you to take great care of him. And so I thought I really needed to understand the background of the family dynamic. And so that was really important to me. And what I would tell you is, this is a true story. So I knew what I wanted to do, and I said, how am I going to separate myself? So my first year at the Norton School, I completed 45 hours as a student athlete. In my second year at the Norton School,
you're impressing a lot of people here, Josh. You're a lot of wows, a lot of wows.
Yeah. So 45 hours, no summer school. I didn't take summer school. I wasn't, because I was, and Coach Thompson knows this, I was coaching a summer team called the Houston Hoops, because it was a grassroots team that I was coaching that my dad kind of my dad started. And then my next year I completed 42 hours, and I had 87 hours completed. And I was very disciplined in my academic studies. Now, look, I probably missed out on a lot of parties, on a lot of, Friday night, party here, Saturday night, but I was really locked in knowing what I wanted to do. I was with the basketball team and academics. There was nothing else in my vision, because I said, this is going to be important to, and maybe one day impress an athletic director. And in fact, so after the 87 hours are completed, Coach Olsen had an opening assistant on his staff. One coach left to be a head coach. I went to Coach Olsen's house office and begged him to hire me as a 20-year-old. And he says, I can't hire you. You don't have your degree. And I was like crushed. I said, I've got to get my degree. So I was 33 credits short. So the fifth semester of my college career, I completed all 33 hours. I was literally in class 8 to 1 every day. And then, I didn't procrastinate. I was on top of it. And I was saying, okay, this is going to look impressive to when I meet an AD and meet the president of a school and applying for a Division I head job. So then my 6th and 7th semester, I did my master's there at the University of Arizona. So in 7 semesters, I got a bachelor's and master's. But in my mind, I was thinking, I did this because I knew what I wanted to do, and this is going to be an impressive opportunity to sell to a president and AD when I'm in a coat and tie and explaining about my academic sincerity and how important it is. And I'm backing up my actions by walking the walk, in a sense, backing it all up. Fast forward, so I stay on there. I become an assistant. I work my way up at Arizona, at the University of Arizona, to one day become an assistant coach for Lute Olsen. During this time, I'm sort of developing this manual what I would do when I get a head job, and what I present to an athletic director and to a president of a school and to the deans, and when I have my opportunity to interview. And so I'm starting to do, okay, this is my philosophy. I start putting this notebook together. I'm there with Coach Olsen for a long time at the University of Arizona, and then I'm an assistant at the University of Memphis. And through all this, I'm starting to put together like what I would do in my first 100 days on the job, what it would be like. I have this very detailed manual. I'm working for John, true story. I'm working for John Calipari at Memphis. He takes the Kentucky job. Nobody wants the Memphis job. I'm 31 at the time. I'm his assistant because he had just won about 95% of his games in his last 4 years in college there at Memphis, and nobody wanted to follow that. It was the most wins in the history of the NC2A in a 4-year time period. Nobody can take the job. I'm going to Kentucky with John Calipari. I pack up my apartment. I've getting ready to move. I'm excited going to Lexington. Not 1 second did I ever think about being the head coach at Memphis. I'm literally on my way going to Kentucky when the athletic director at Memphis calls me and says, "I need to see you. Can you turn around?" I said, "I'm kind of," he said, "I really need to see you." So I turn around. I'm thinking they hired their head coach and they need me to stay as like the top assistant to keep all the recruits because we had the #1 recruiting class coming in. I show up to his house. I'm literally in shorts and a t-shirt, walk in, and he looks at me. I mean, he cannot get a coach. Everybody's turned him down. I sit at his table, and this is a job that's equivalent to like Arizona. It's a huge job, big time job. I sit at his table and he says, "Do you want the job?" And his name was R.C. Johnson. Honest to God, this is a true story. I said, "Mr. Johnson, I really appreciate that, but if I'm going to be an assistant, I'm going to stay with Coach Calipari at Kentucky." He took his 2 fists and slammed them on the kitchen table because he was so upset that he's getting turned down again, this time by a 31-year-old. And he says, "Do you want the head job?" Now, when he said that, I thought I was caught on, on like Punked by Ashton Kutcher or Candid Camera. And all I thought about in that split second when he said that to me, I did 33 hours in 1 semester, 45 in a year, 42 in a year. What about, you don't even know about my manual in my first 100 days of the job. I want to tell you about how important academics are. Where's my meeting with the president? And so he said, "Hey, do you want?" And I said, "Fine, yeah, I'll take the job." He says, "Great, press conference tonight." I says, "Mr. Johnson, I don't have any coats or suits or I shipped them all to Lexington." He says, "Here's what I'm going to go pay you. Go buy one and we'll move the press conference to tomorrow morning." So that's how I got the job. And it just shows you, but I credit a lot of that discipline back to the Norton School, me being able to graduate through the Norton School to allow some doors to open up because of the importance on the academic part.
Yeah. That's a great story, Josh. Yeah, and how exciting that was during that time. One of the things in taking your head job, I'm looking at the website today of talking about the human development and family science is what you studied. And it talks about relationships, perspectives, social work, counseling, psychology, human resources, child program management. I'm thinking, you know what? Head coaches need all of those experiences just because it's so much human interaction. And you touched on it a lot just there. And especially when you're putting your information, your manual together, so much of that is things that you learn in college and things that you're learning through the Norton School.
Well, I'm forever grateful for the Norton School just because, as you mentioned on those things, because Coach, look, and as we know, the world is moving to so much to technology based, and we all know that. I mean, that's just, and it's so, how many times are we calling somewhere and we just want to talk to a real person? I mean,
right.
I'm hitting 0, 0, 0, 0. I'm like, I want customer service, I'm like screaming in the phone. I don't want to talk to a robot. I want to talk to an actual person. I say all that to say one of the great things about sports and about coaching, or really still in about any aspect of life, as you mentioned, Coach, what was so great about with the Norton School and is particularly that degree is the interaction and the dealings with people. And I look back at a lot of the lessons that I learned, or the information that I got through my undergrad degree there, allowed me to prepare myself in situations, being part of, in a basketball team, for example, when you have 15 players, 15 guys coming from all kinds of different backgrounds, and different backgrounds were how they grew up, both, economic backgrounds. Some had 2-parent homes. Some, were raised by a grandmother. Some, the dad was never involved in their life. They had trauma because of this situation. I mean, you're dealing with with people in all walks of life. And so having that, what I learned from my time there at school helped me be prepared for running a team and being around people, because in the end, it's still a people's business. Whether it's sports, whether it's a business, whether it's school, no matter what life is about, it's still people. And being able to interact and understand people and understand, one of the things that I learned from in one of my many classes that I took was the importance when you're dealing with people, how important listening is. When you're dealing, because you mentioned part of the thing with the degree is there's a lot of talk of me touching points on psychology as well too within the degree that I got, and I took psychology classes, and so with that, you learn so much about listening, and when you listen, you can get so much better information and understand where people are coming from. So I'm forever grateful for the Norton School, but also I just think that, and there's many great degrees at the University of Arizona, but the one thing about about my degree is I'm telling you, it can make a huge difference in so many people's lives, because no matter what, you still are dealing with people, whether that's in a business or life, but even with your own family and dealing with kids, your wife, husband, your significant other, whatever it may be, the people that you're dealing with. So as you mentioned, Coach, it's still a people's business.
Well, and it's a great point when you're talking about that. And I our director Laura Scarmella's here, and I heard her. She just was talking a little bit. I'm going to have her come up here at the end, but she was talking about how admissions is up. And people are looking for what you're talking about. And so talk just a little bit more about your advice to students, because there's people that come to school and they're not sure which area should I be in business, should I be in this, or should I be in that? And you're talking about the value of the Norton School, and it just, again, how valuable it is for life.
Yeah, well, I think the other great thing about the Norton School, Coach, and everybody there would understand this as well too. Look, how many times do people go to college? They might say they want to do this or they want to do that, and they change their degrees. How many times because they're not sure what they want to do? They come to college, they're not 100% certain. They might not find out what you want to do until you're 30, till you're 40. I mean, that just happens. That's the normalcy of life. The great thing about the Norton School is that even if you weren't 100% certain of what you wanted to do entering college, or you might not be, have an exact picture, the degree from that college, that particular college, what that does, it gives you so much flexibility in order to open up other doors for you until you find out what you want to do. And no matter what you want to do, and again, there are some jobs where you're literally just sitting behind a computer, but to get that job, you've got to deal with people. Right. Even dealing on a computer and technology, you're still probably interacting with someone on the other side of a monitor at somewhere across the country. Right. So learning about people, understanding about people, the family dynamics, the dynamics of just the whole deal of the human way of human beings is fascinating. It's sophisticated, but it's so fascinating at the same time. So it's a great opportunity for people to really open doors, and you can move in any which way you want to in any direction of life.
Right. And going hand in hand with that, and you knew that I had been a fundraiser here at the university, but that's one of the things that helps so much are people that give for scholarships for young people. And I think the college is trying to keep that growing and keep that progressing and so forth. So alumni that are out there listening and so forth, you have an impact on guys like Josh Pastner.
No, I mean, look, I don't think I would be sitting where I am. Yes, you got to get some breaks along the way, and I was very fortunate, but I would not have had the opportunities and the doors that would have opened for me without, I really believe that, without the Norton School. And so I could tell you that the importance of the continuation of people helping funding scholarships, and I get it, there's so many people out there that are asking for different things. Something like this at the Norton School for scholarship opportunities, it can really change people's lives, and that can make directions that can change. Really, you can change the world, and so the importance of continuing, as you mentioned, admissions is up, enrollment's up, people wanting to be part of the program. I think the continuation of continuing to give and be part of that is a big deal, because it can impact so many people that you might not even realize. And I'm telling you, I look back and everyone, and when I tell the story about, there's two things. When I tell the story, like I've told about, where I graduated from and the degree and how it impacted me, I tell that all the time. And secondly, even when I've talked to people for jobs and I'm doing television, even right now I'm doing TV. When I talked to them, when I was interviewing for jobs, one of the things I talked about was a lot of the things that I learned in college from my degree, based on dealing with people, because it still is a people's business.
Yeah, Josh, you're great. The couple things, and I don't want to. We're running out of time a little bit. I want to talk a little bit of going back to the athletics part. But I want to talk about your steps in your career. And but before that, I'm going to give you two questions. One is, being an athlete here, being a basketball player here, and winning the national championship.
Yeah.
I mean, that was unbelievable. So you're part of that. Okay. Then the other thing I'd like to hit you to talk a little bit about, you've talked a little bit about, okay, so you're the head coach at Memphis, which is a huge job.
Yep.
Then you go to the head coaching job at Georgia Tech University, which is a high academic, great university in the same conference as Duke and North Carolina and Virginia. I mean, all that. And now you're doing TV work and you're on national television. So, I mean, that's a lot in two questions there, but can you touch a little bit, because we got to get to our question and answer here pretty soon.
Well, yeah, the great thing about TV, because anyone that knows me, and you know this well enough, Coach, I can talk. The great thing in TV, I have the earpiece, and they're telling me in the earpiece, hey, Josh, you got 10 seconds. Wrap it up, bud. Hurry up. And these type of things, I don't have the earpiece. You got to be my earpiece, Coach. So if you need me to wrap it up, you let me know. But yes, the 1997 national championship I remember after we won the championships, and I've told people this, we should do there should be a 30 for 30 on this. I've told ESPN this, because it's the greatest tournament run in the history of the NCAA tournament. 3 number 1 seeds, to the only team that has ever won the national championship beating 3 number 1 seeds. The only time that's ever happened has been the 1997 Arizona Wildcats. Every time we're in the tournament, when I watch a tournament, I see one of the 1 seeds go down. I want that next team not to be able to ever beat 3 number 1s. We don't want that. And, because you want to keep that you're the only team to ever beat 3 number 1s, unless of course if Coach Tommy Lloyd in Arizona could do it again. Otherwise, you don't want any team to do that. But the second part would be, I tell you what, we were the first team at that time to ever win a national championship with a freshman point guard in Mike Bibby. Now, teams have done it since. Prior to that, years earlier, the freshmen weren't eligible, but Mike Bibby was the first freshman ever to lead a team as a starting freshman point guard. And the 3 number 1 seeds that we beat were Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky, 3 of the bluest of blue bloods, the biggest names in college hoops. And I remember after we won the national championship, I told my father, man, this is easy. We're going to do this every single year. And when you look back, it is just such rarefied air to be able to win that championship. And it was just a blessing, and to be part of it was just something that words can't describe. And And you're right. I was a head coach at Memphis at 31. I was a head coach at Georgia Tech at 38. I got ACC Coach of the Year. So I've been Coach of the Year in 2 different conferences. Been to the NCAA tournament multiple times. Was competing against Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams and Jim Boeheim and Rick Pitino and all these guys that Tom Izzo, we'd play them when I used to grow up, as a kid watching them. So you have to pinch yourself at times. And then now I have the opportunity to be on television. This past year, I did ESPN, did CBS, did Turner, and did NBC. So I was dealing with a lot of TV. So I've seen a lot, and it's been a real blessing to be able to do all that.
That's super. Well, Josh, you're a great friend to me and to everyone here. Can you tell us a little bit about your family? We talked a little bit about about your
my wife, who I met when I was an assistant at the University of Arizona. And she's an Arizona girl. She grew up in Sierra Vista, which is east of Tucson. But I met her. She didn't go to University of Arizona. She went to Northern Arizona. But then I met her. She was working in Tucson. So I met my wife in Tucson. I love Tucson. Like every time I come back to Tucson, like I called the Arizona-Oregon game this year for ESPN. It was the last home game in the Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-8, whatever, and I was able to be there on Arizona Senior Day this year. But when you get off that plane and you're driving, you just feel like you feel different. And I'm telling you, I'm jealous of everyone in that room that's being in Tucson right now. I love Tucson. I woke up Saturday morning of that day and drove all the way up as far as I go to the mountains. I went to Oro Valley. I was going west and east because I just love the mountains. You just feel different. And so I love Tucson. So I met my wife. I've got 4 lovely kids, a 14-year-old daughter, 11-year-old daughter, 8-year-old daughter, and a 2-year-old son. So it's busy. Now my wife tells me, don't come near me, no more kids. She's like, stay away from me. So, but our household's got a lot of energy and it's all good.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, when you love to come back here, you've got a standing invitation for homecoming coming back here. So everybody's going to want to have you come back. So
yes, that's great.
We're going to go to question and answers. And let's do that. Raquel has a microphone there to come around. Anybody that has a question they'd like to ask Josh.
My name is Whitney Wilkening Dobby. I'm a 2008 graduate of the Norton School retail major, and I just want to say thank you. We love your passion. We love your excitement, and it's really exciting. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much for saying that. I have great, I tell this all the time, what you see with me is what you get. In fact, in the mornings when I wake up, I'm full of energy, and my family's like, hey, cut it out. Like give us an hour before you got to calm your energy down. So I'm like this all the time. I'm a high energy guy. I love life. Like I said, I love my time in Arizona, and I love being able to be in airports and someone will be yelling across the way, bear down, bear down. And so, it's just kind of cool on that stuff. And so we're all connected in some form or fashion with that.
Okay. Any other questions? We got one right here.
Hey Josh, John Allman here. I just renewed my basketball tickets for the 40th year.
Wow.
Year. I remember when you came into the program, I watched you and saw how you fit into that team, how you encouraged the other players. As a matter of fact, I think Mike Bibby would admit you're the reason for his success. I know you practiced with him in off hours forever, but you've gained much respect here and throughout your career with Memphis and Georgia Tech. We follow you. Wishing you the best always.
Well, thank you so much for being a season ticket holder for all those years, and you've seen a lot of basketball, and I tell you what makes the U of A program, the basketball program, so special. Obviously, is the fan support. I mean, even when I did the game versus Oregon, I was like, wow. I mean, the energy in that building was just incredible, and it just brought me back to like those days. It was nothing greater. And you know this God rest his soul, he's passed away, the ooh-ah man, when he would come out there and get the crowd going crazy, U of A, and pointing. I mean, you would send chills through you. And I mean, just that the energy in the building is just, there's nothing like it. It's a special place. You're right. I mean, I spent a lot of time working guys out on this, after practice, late in the evening. I used to always say I'm the all-time leading rebounder in the history of Arizona, based on the amount of times I had to rebound guys' shots in the evening. But yeah, it was, we had some great guys, some of those great teams with Coach Olsen, and you've seen it, you being a 40-year season ticket holder, you've seen the transformation, especially now in college athletics, where back then, when you think about it, like if you got a free pizza, it was almost like the program was shut down based on the rules. Now guys are getting paid and everything else. It's a total different deal in college athletics right now.
Hey, Josh, that is a whole nother, that's a whole nother call. That's covering all that. And just in a nutshell, you opened the door on that. Just in a nutshell, where are things going with all that NIL and all that college sports?
Yeah, what I would say is so a couple things. Number one is it's really not NIL, it's pay to play. So initially they try to have this name, image, likeness, but it's really just pay to play, and that's what it's become. The NC2A has been sued so many times, and they've literally have lost every lawsuit. They just settled this last lawsuit that was about 2.7 billion, not million, billion, where every school is going to be responsible for certain monies. There will be guardrails and new rules coming out in the summer of 2025. That's when you'll see more of the clarity of college athletics, of the future of it, in the summer of 2025. And look, they're trying to get Congress involved to make antitrust rules. The whole thing is they don't want, and the colleges don't want this either, they don't want the student athletes to ever become employees. That's what they're trying to avoid. So what they'll do now is every student athlete will get a share of the revenue of the TV. Now, what comes into place now is Title IX. Because in Title IX rules, everything's got to be equality. But they don't know if that overtakes with this TV revenue sharing, because the revenue for TV is coming in for football and men's basketball. And so will they have to give some of the money to even to men's golf and women's golf, or to soccer, to softball, to baseball, or is the TV revenue just going to the football players and men's basketball? So all this will all come to a head in the summer of 2025. There'll be complete clarity of what the future of college athletics is going to look like. But there's no question the players will be getting paid and will be getting a share of the revenue of the TV contracts moving forward.
That's great. Okay. Thank you for your insight, Josh. That's really, really good. Okay. We've got one more question. Okay. This is from Rebecca Thompson.
Okay. I'm interested in your notebook with your philosophy. Is that ever going to come out bestseller? To be able to buy the Norton School, have your philosophy statement, put it up on our website.
Well, I tell you what, I've had a lot of people. I've had a lot of people ask me about that, because when I created that, I had the first 100 days what I would talk about in the press conference, how I would operate this. And so when I moved from Memphis to Atlanta, it's in a box. And then I've just got to find the box, but I have my notebook. I got to pull it out. Maybe listen, if I want to go back into being a head coach again, which I do, I'll have to pull that out, maybe refresh it up, and get that ready and maybe the next time I can talk about my academic intensity and the love for the academics and everything else on my next gig. And so I have that though at my house somewhere in a box. I just got to pull it out. I got to find it. I have the time to do it. I just got to have the want to dig through the boxes. Everyone knows that when you have a bunch of boxes that are sitting in your basement or attic, you're like, you'll get to it at some point.
Hey, Josh, she's tired of my manual. She needs a new one. She wants a new one. So, hey, one last question here. Ben wants to ask a question. And yeah.
So, Coach, I'm going to refer to you as Coach, just as you would with Coach Thompson here. I graduated from Ben Catzel, by the way. I graduated from the Norton School in 23 in financial planning. I'm a Tucson native. So the 1997 national championship was just before I was born. All that to say is that I grew up knowing Coach Josh Pastner through the U of A, and even more core than that, you at Memphis, because there was a game in 2012 where we matched up in Memphis in the tournament, and I remember being a fifth grade basketball player scared to death of having to play Josh Pastner's Memphis team. So when I saw you on TV in Oregon, I was kind of taken aback. I didn't realize you were doing TV, but I just wanted to ask, what's next? What's on Coach Pastner's horizons?
Yeah, well, that's amazing. I mean, how fast time goes. You weren't even born in 1997. That's why I always talk about literally every breath, every day, every heartbeat is a true gift. I literally live that way, and I believe in that. And so you just reinforced that to me there, just how fast things go. Wow, it just seems like yesterday. And it just seems like yesterday, when I was at Memphis, we were playing Arizona. We had a great chance to win the game. I thought there was a questionable call at the end, but hey, if we were going to lose, I was fine losing to Arizona. But no, I do want to coach again. I had some opportunities to coach again this past year. But in the spots that I had with television, they're really hard to get. And I was concerned if I was just going to leave on that, man, you leave that right then, because so many people in the things that I have with television, both being within studio and the games that I get a call, I mean, it's a high level deal, and that people would give a right, left arm to be able to be in those spots. And so I said, I'm not going to go rush and take a job just to take one and leave the position that I have with television, because television keeps you so visible in front of everybody. I said, I can continue to do that. Now, I do miss coaching. I'm still young enough. I'm in my mid 40s. So I do want to coach again and have that opportunity to do so. So I'll do television again this year for all the different networks. And then I'll see what shakes in the spring when those opportunities come. And if it's something that's really good, or I'm saying like, I just can't turn this down, that would have to be something like that for me to leave something like a television in the opportunities that I have with TV. Because like I said, those things are, me being on this side of it, I realize how hard those things are to get and how many people want to get in those. So I don't want to leave it unless it's the right opportunity. But that's really cool that you asked that, and that you remember all those times, and man, time flies. God bless you for that.
Yeah. Well, Josh, we're all hoping, and we think you deserve that next step, and it's going to happen. So we're all cheering for you. So.
Well, look, and if anyone ever has any questions, look, my email, email me anytime, joshpastner@gmail.com. Pretty simple. And if you do send me an email, and it can be about anything, and if you send me an email and I don't respond, you sent it to the wrong person. So reach out to me anytime. Pretty simple.
What?
Again, JoshPastner, joshpastner@gmail.com. Reach out to me anytime about anything in life. I always like to hear from people, and especially anyone U of A grad. So reach out to me at any point.
Okay. We're going to introduce Laura Scarmella, the director of the Norton School, and we're just come on up and we'd love to have you say a few words.
Okay. I need to know this. Okay.
So Josh, we actually have a lot in common.
I too am a family studies alum from the Norton School. And I was at the 1997 game.
I drove from Iowa,
It's
crashed in my brother's hotel room with like three other guys.
But the one thing that you might not have known because you were on the floor and I was in the stands is that the Kentucky fans were not very nice, and they were certain to win. So they were being aggressive in the stands, and they had actually printed out 3 T-shirts. Do you remember that? And people had these 3 T-shirts, and we won. And so it was a pretty scary little place to be. Yeah, it was not that far from Kentucky. So I was there too.
We felt your energy. I promise you. We felt the energy on the floor from everyone there in the arena and through the TV. We felt it.
So
We have a picture of my brother and me, and you literally take
my
my tonsils.
I'm yelling. So I just want to thank you for doing this.
I think I also need to be clear that Josh and I have never met, and I do not pay him to say the things.
I am very happy that you have had such a great experience at the U of A and in the Norton School. And I share your passion for family studies. I think it's a really remarkable degree. We are now human development and family science. And when you were at the Norton School, it was family consumer science. You're now doing ecology. And I think it's a real testament to this field that we evolved with changes in society. I want to invite you to come to homecoming.
I think it's time that you see what we have done. I mean, we have added 2 degrees. We have a retail store that will be unveiled. We have a financial technology lab. We have a fashion degree. And our fashion students designed the U of A ASU Territorial Cup t-shirt. We'll give you one.
Yes, that's great. No, and I want to get back there, and I'll look. Let me know on the dates on homecoming because it gives me a reason to try to get back.
October 19th.
October 19th. Okay, let's.
Yeah, your kids, bring them all.
I don't disagree. Let me look at the calendar, see if I can make it work.
Okay.
Because we will celebrate your family as we celebrate our own families. So, thank you so much for this. Do you have questions for us?
No, I don't. I really appreciate that I got asked to do this. I know, in fact, I got asked to do this at the Arizona game and the Arizona-Oregon game when I was calling the game before the game, and Coach knows this, he and his wife, and I was very honored, and I said yes, let me know when, and so anything I can ever do, I look at this as a team, and that we're all part of this team. So I'm a big believer in the Norton School, as you mentioned, the doors that have opened because of the school. And so I'm forever grateful. And so I'm part of the team, and let's keep growing it and making it as great and continue to make it the best team, not only on the U of A's campus, but in the entire country.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Josh, thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You too.
Okay.
Okay. Bear down.